Hey, welcome back to another 1980s Now interview. On this episode, we'll be speaking with iconic, beautiful, smart, funny actor Cassandra Peterson. Of course, Cassandra created the legendary, the bigger-than-life character Elvira in the 1980s, and she also appeared in some other films as well, although you may not have recognized her. We chatted with Cassandra on Facebook Live, where she took questions from the live audience, and also your comments and accolades. If you'd like to join us for a future Facebook Live where you get to chat with a celebrity that you love, please follow us on Facebook at 1980s Now and follow our content partner, The 80s Ruled, there as well. Together, we join forces to bring you these interviews as often as we can. Enjoy. Our guest today began her reign as the Queen of Halloween back in 1981 when she auditioned to be the late-night host of classic horror films on a local LA TV station. And not only did she get the part, spoiler alert, but our guest spent the better part of, or most of, the 4 decades that followed portraying her character Elvira in every medium. Radio, film, music, doing the voice for animation, everything. And while much about Elvira remains a mystery, even less had been known about her creator until now. In September, our guest published Yours Cruelly, Elvira, Memoirs of the Mistress of the Dark. And while her alter ego adorns the cover here, this bestseller quickly became a bestseller because it's a great book. The book actually, though, talks about and it tells it in a often funny, sometimes heartbreaking, and completely unbelievable true story of the woman behind the makeup. And you should check this book out. It's available everywhere. Please welcome to the show, Cassandra Peterson. Cassandra, hey.
Hi, how are you, Will?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Oh, I have a little shrine to my character.
I was wondering about that, yeah. You know, in digging into, of course, everything. First of all, seriously, folks, if you like to read books, just a book, this is a great story. We're twins. But look, if you're a fan of Cassandra's or Elvira's, or you just love a good story, oh my goodness, it's really, I was explaining it to a friend, it's somewhat tongue-in-cheek. I said it's like a sexy Forrest Gump. Because
someone compared it to Forrest Gump. That's weird.
It is quite something. And I can't imagine you ever, in your wildest dreams, and we'll talk about how you did some, sort of a focus work or meditating on, what you wanted to sort of accomplish in life. But could imagine that you would have this sort of adventure.
I know, I never talked about it to people before much. So I'm kind of glad to get it all out there. I've had so many friends over the years saying, you have to write your life story, because I casually dropped the fact that I lived in a tree, or that I came from a farm in Kansas, or that I was a showgirl in Vegas, and people would go, what? So I finally decided I needed to write it down and get it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is truly fantastic. It's amazing how it, we hear your voice, we hear Elvira's voice, which is, this sort of alter ego of your voice. But, I'm thinking about the book, and of course, probably in the very least, for the marketing only, you have Elvira's picture on here, and we only have a little tiny picture of Cassandra there's some photos inside, but on the dust jacket.
Yeah. Well, cleavage sells. What can I say?
If I had it, I would use it.
You would. Let me tell you, I have.
Fine. Yeah.
Boy.
So you think about folks that came out of the 1980s and came out of the Groundlings in particular, which is like a machine for talent still to this day, but certainly in the 80s, it was, churning out folks. But you and your castmate and friend, Paul Rubens, are two performers that are so well known as their characters. I think it was probably years before people realized that's a real person.
I know it was for me, and I'm pretty sure it is for Paul. That people really thought that I was Elvira. I mean, right after Elvira started, I used to get called in on other auditions, and I'd walk in the door, and you'd see their face kind of just, drop, because they were expecting this kind of 6 foot tall, raven-haired beauty, and I'd come through the door, and it was not what they were expecting or looking for.
So even folks in the business, you had them cajoled.
Yeah, I did.
Is it better at the time? Certainly now, your book's out, a lot of your story is out there. Do you feel it was better to have that sort of anonymity, or are there times where you felt frustrated that folks didn't appreciate Cassandra for what you were doing to create this character?
Yeah, I never really worried about that. I was really happy to have the anonymity. I really was. I was able to pretty much have a regular life, raise my child in a normal situation, unlike other celebrity children. Um,
Sure.
and yeah, it was nice having that. So I have a little less of that now, but I'm also older and I don't go out to clubs and hang out that much anymore or anything, so it's not a big deal. But really, the only good thing that fame is kind of good for is getting good seats in restaurants, and at concerts and stuff.
Yes. I
And
would
that's
take it for
about
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know if it's worth the price of all of your privacy or a good percentage of your privacy, but
Yeah. Well, I didn't have to give up too much of my
yeah,
privacy, not too much. So I was very, very fortunate compared to other celebrities.
right. We actually have a question already here from Isaac, and Isaac's getting right to it. So yeah, again, there's travails, there's ups, there's downs, and Isaac is asking, oops, where did Isaac's question go? There we go. When writing about trauma, such as your experiences with your mother or sexual assault, does it make you feel numb in a way?
I don't know if it was numb so much as hard to write about, just hard, a little bit traumatizing to write about it. But once I got through it, it was actually kind of cathartic.
Hmm.
It was great to see it on the paper, get that all out there, tell people what happened. And yeah, so it was hard to write about, really, really difficult. I'd go to work that day trying to write and just didn't want to go,
Mm,
didn't know where to start, didn't know how to put it
right.
down. And it would be hard to get through the whole day writing, but like I said, once I did, it was really nice to get it out there.
How many years did it take you to chronicle your life in this book?
Well, I started out about, 15 years ago trying
Oh,
to write things down, but I just wrote little essays here and there. I would take writing classes once in a while, and I'd write down stories about my life and put them aside. And, finally, when I really got serious about it, I got an agent, I got a book deal, and then I got paid, and then
hmm.
I set my ass down and did the work. Because otherwise I was running around doing all these different jobs and everything, trying to
Sure.
make a living, so I really didn't have time to sit down 4 to 8 hours every day and write a book for free, a
Mm,
book that I didn't know if I'd make money on it or not.
right, right, right.
So
Uh, we have a question from Lucy, and Lucy's question is quite long, so I don't know if putting it on a screen might. Let's see, I'll read it to you. So Lucy Webb writes, "Hey Cassandra, I'm a queer woman who actually came out in the 90s, but before I was ready to be out myself, I was very connected to gay men and camp culture of the 80s. Looking back, that was just my easiest access point to LGBTQ culture. Since you've come out more publicly, I've wondered if you've had a similar experience looking at some of the choices you've made in your career and with Elvira specifically. So camp."
wow, yeah, I mean, I hung around with nothing but gay men my
Mm,
whole life. I mean, from the time I was about 14 years old, I kind of learned everything I know from gay men,
mm,
and drag queens in particular. I think I'm a drag queen, I really
right.
do. I mean, I don't see any difference between me and a drag queen
Right.
except that I don't have to tuck, but other than that,
Yes.
we're pretty much the same. Um, and yeah, I I don't think it made a difference into me coming out. That was a big surprise for me at 50 years
Mm,
old. I fall in love with a woman. First time I was interested in a woman. She's the only woman I've been interested in ever, and I don't know if I'm gay or what the hell I am, but I
right.
guess I can't label it. I've
Right.
been with men for a long time. I mean, I was telling some people, I guess I had to switch over to women because I went through all the men. If you read the book, you'll see I'm not kidding.
Well,
Oops.
yeah. And
Yeah,
as a
well,
middle, I was going to say, as a middle-aged man who's grown up in the 1980s, I may say something inappropriate, although I was going to say, I don't blame you. I don't like men either. Or well,
yeah, thank
you
you.
like men.
Oh,
You like
there
men,
you
but you know what I mean. Let's see. Elizabeth wants to know whether you'll be coming back to Australia, hopefully next year.
I hope so. I love Australia. I actually did a show there in the 80s, on, oh God, what was it called? It was one of their big, it was network. 13 or so. I don't remember, but
Hmm.
I did an actual Elvira show just for the Australian market. And I did it in LA, but I've since gone there several times to first to promote that, later to promote Mistress of the Dark. And I love it over there. I have so much fun. So I really, really hope I'll be coming back soon. I'll make a point to.
Yeah.
And I love kangaroos too.
Are they just roaming the street? No, that's Americans' impression of Australia. They're just roaming.
Not quite.
No.
Yeah, I went to oh golly, what was his name? I loved him. The nature, the
Oh,
Australian
Steve Irwin. Yeah.
Steve Irwin. I went to his place after he had passed away. I just loved him. I loved his show. I loved him as a person. And I went to his place and I got to see all these kangaroos just laying around and pet them and talk to them. And it was so much fun. I mean, it's something you don't get to see over here. They were like squirrels, you know? They're all over the place.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Maybe
not the city, but I was kind of out in the country.
Yeah. Question from Wilhelm. Wilhelm. Do you have any plans or projects in the works?
I do. I have a couple of very big projects in the works.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Sadly,
Top
I
secret.
can't tell you about them. I am not at liberty to talk about them yet until they get a little more underway. But 2 projects I'm very excited to do. One is for television. One is a film. I've already done a lot of the work on the film, and it'll be out next fall. And then another one that a new project I just began, and I'm really excited about it. It'll be hopefully on TV within a year or 2.
Okay, we're excited. I guess so. I don't know if you can tell us then even this much. In this film, are you in the film? And 2, are you Elvira in the film? No, that's too much.
Yeah.
I don't want to get you in trouble.
I will say I'm not Elvira in the film.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
so the work
all like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So there were some times in the 1980s when you appeared as other characters. Here, as you mentioned, you were Biker Mama, I think, right? Something like that.
Yeah, Biker Mama. That was it.
What was it like?
Beat up Pee Wee Herman, which is like a dream come true for most people.
Imagine it's like beating up your brother, but all the time you probably had spent together by then.
We had spent a ton of time together, and I love Paul. He's one of my best, closest friends.
Yeah. What was it like to be on a set or in film playing someone other than Elvira? Did some sort of was it liberating to take a break from the character at these different moments?
No, it's scary as hell to me.
Oh.
I can't stand acting as myself. It terrifies me. It's so weird. Elvira is like putting on some kind of a helmet and a mask. I don't know. I feel very, very uninhibited dressed as Elvira. But man, playing myself scares the crap out of me. I do it if people ask me. I don't go out for roles purposely looking for other acting work, believe me. But if somebody, a friend or someone says, we want you to play this part, I've done it. So it terrifies me. Ugh.
So and the way you describe it, and I guess it occurred to me when you're reading your story here. Again, folks, get this book; it's really awesome. Makes a great Christmas present or whatever holiday you might celebrate. But talking about how you characterize yourself as a shy person in everyday life, so it does seem like that the way you describe it, like you're putting on a suit of armor that protects Cassandra in the meantime, and
it feels like that. I feel I put on that drag, and I feel so confident and ballsy and like I can say or do anything and I won't get in trouble. It's really weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I'm myself and I'm kind of like, oh my God, I'm going to screw up. I don't know. Weird. Maybe I should head over to the psychiatrist's office after this. Never know.
Maybe. It's interesting you say all this because again, the dress is so. Maybe you made this point. That's where I'm getting it from. The dress is so revealing and vulnerable itself, but yet emotionally, I guess you feel so protected. It's really quite an interesting contradiction.
It is weird. I think I really need to see a doctor. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I recommend it to everybody. I've gone many times, many years.
The book was kind of like a year-long therapy session. It really was. The book was really good for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine committing. Yeah, a lot of things like this. You tell that story. Maybe I shouldn't say because folks who read it, this book, you get to the ending of it. It's so touching. Oh my goodness, there's those moments at the ending. I mean, there's so many times throughout the book. I wish I could time travel and just hug you. Just say you're going to be, you're going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Oh,
But
thank
that
you.
ending, wow. But talking about putting something in the book reminds me of the moment at the end where you talk about, well, towards the end when you talk about writing a letter to your father.
Oh, yeah,
That idea of committing something and then maybe you can be sort of let it go finally.
just get it out there. Yeah. Yeah, I even made my manager cry.
Mm.
He doesn't cry easily, but yeah, the ending, a lot of people have told me
Oh,
they kind of have been tearing up there at the ending. Yeah, there was some heavy
yeah.
things involving my family and my sisters who passed away from
Mm.
drug and alcohol addiction. And yeah, some tough moments in my life, that I think a lot of people will relate to.
Yeah.
Um, and I hope not directly relate to, but
Yeah.
maybe something in their life is similar.
Yeah. Well, it's
Um,
good. It's just it's easy to, well, you've got a couple layers here. One, you've got a character that's not you, but is part of you.
right.
That needs to be peeled back, I guess. But then yourself to find out that folks that we've adored for so many years that seem so, have it all. It's easy to have this impression of folks that are, on screens that they have it all, right? Everything's perfect.
Yeah.
To hear these real stories and say, okay, maybe in my life I can get through these challenges too. Other folks have them.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I was glad that people kind of know where I came from, because I think a lot of people do get the impression about, oh, they're a celebrity. They had it made. It was easy. They, just got
Right.
this or that. And for some celebrities, that's true, but I wanted people to know that I worked hard. I struggled. I came from not not poverty, but certainly not even middle class, um, and had kind of a tough childhood and grew up. And the whole point of that is being persistent and going after what you
Mm.
want, setting a goal for yourself, trying to get there. Is something that anyone can do, no matter where you're from or what your background is or what has happened to you. I hope that comes across.
Mm.
I hope it
Absolutely.
will inspire people. That
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
I
Uh,
hope.
Speaking of your character, the connection between you and your character, Chase asks, in contrast to your actual personality, how much are you like Elvira, and how much are you much removed? I guess, yeah.
It's a good question, because I used to say all the time that I was nothing like Elvira. We were
Oh.
exact opposites. I really did. And then one day it kind of dawned on me, and this is another question for the psychiatrist's office. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
um, I I feel like Elvira has my personality when I was a teenager. It's
Mm.
really weird. And I think if you read the book, you'll see that I'm very much a risk taker, very overly confident. I was kind of a know-it-all, loudmouth, smartass. And I think Elvira got all those attributes. And Cassandra, luckily, grew up into an adult and calmed down
Mm.
and
Wow.
became somewhat of a normal person. But Elvira took off with my teenage personality.
That's interesting. It's like having you talk about people have split personalities to deal with trauma, but then you
Yep.
have one where you choose consciously, and you didn't do it to deal with the trauma. Well, it may have been a result of the trauma,
Yeah.
but you didn't say, I'm going to do a TV show or I'm going to do a film so I can be Elvira to protect me from the, but that is really fascinating. Yeah.
I almost think it was some kind of splintering off at
Yeah.
that time, in personality wise. And I mean, see, that's why we need to go to the psychiatrist's office
Yes.
again. But I even did have a therapist tell me one time that it was a little bit like part of my personality had splintered off into this
Hmm.
character. So,
That's
I may
wonderful.
be talented or maybe just,
Don't say it.
I'm not going to say it.
um, I know there was a question here about, oh, here it is. Brandy asks, will you ever do conventions again? That's one question. And will we ever see Elvira again? That's a different question.
Oh, that is a different question. I think about both of those questions all the time, Brandy. I'm not kidding. First of all, I sincerely really miss doing conventions. It's where I get to interact with my fans, where I get to hear from them, and they get to tell me what they think about things that I'm doing. And I miss seeing them. I miss being around them. I love my fans. I mean, I was a big fangirl when I was a kid, and chased bands around, movie stars, whatever. And I, I, I feel the same way, my fans feel toward me. I used to feel towards other people. And I miss that. They're like friends to me. They really are. It's hard to describe, but so many of my fans, and I think I believe Isaac, one of the first people on here. I have a great fan named Isaac who just wrote me the most beautiful, beautiful letter about my book. And I'm wondering if that was Isaac at the beginning. I don't know. Could have been somebody different. There's a lot of Isaacs out there, but my fans are very, very close to me, and I miss seeing them. And long story, but I hope that I get back to doing conventions really soon. I mean, everybody does. And what was the other part? Conventions.
Well, we see Elvira again.
I don't know about I said I was going to retire Elvira when I turned 40. I started out at 30. I said 40 was going to be the end. Then I said 50. Then I said 60. Then I said 70. And now I'm really thinking I really shouldn't do it anymore. And then I see Jane Fonda doing, Frankie and Grace at 2 years old. And I go, maybe it could work. I don't know. Who knows, man?
Yeah. You're talking about how you were a fan once. In this book, there are the craziest stories that one woman, I guess you were a young girl at the time, really. You were in high school, right? Teen, goes on to meet rock musicians that come by. Crazy story about Jimi Hendrix running. Oh my gosh. Again, Forrest Gump. Have you ever had a fan go to such lengths to meet you?
I think I have. Yeah. I've had fans hiding in places, but a little scary, when you're a woman. I've had them hide in my dressing room and pop out.
Oh my goodness.
I've had them waiting for me backstage at different TV shows and stuff. But thankfully, 99% of them have been good experiences and worked out really great. Nothing crazy. Oh, my little dog is here. He's been knocking on the door. Anyway, yeah, it's been really good experiences with that. So I'm lucky. Yeah. I'm lucky. I had a few bad experiences early on, stalking situations that weren't so pleasant. But I think it's different if you're a woman,
I was just saying, and guarantee those were all men, because men are gross.
Well, they can be, yes.
Missy asks, what's the name of your book? Here it is, Missy. Yours cruelly, Elvira.
Elvira.
Should hold on this side, so the light's still, there you go.
Yeah.
Let's see, we had another question here. Oh, okay, here you go. So when you're not busy writing a book, where did it go here? What do you enjoy doing in your free time? Do you have any hobbies?
Yeah, that's so funny. People always ask me about hobbies. And, it turns out that besides trying to grow my hair really long, I think my hobbies are my work, because my work encompasses so many different things. It's not like I do one thing. I get to act, I get to sing, I get to dance, I get to write, and a million other things. So really, my work is my hobby. I don't have any others. It's kind of sad. I enjoy cooking Italian food, but I haven't even had time to do that recently because I've been so busy in the last few years. So, I mean, it's a great thing that your work is your hobby. If you really love your work, then it's a fantastic hobby, right? It's not work if you really love it. So, I mean, I have my moments where I'd rather not work. Or I'd rather just be laying down and having a glass of wine or something. But I just really enjoy what I do. And it's always mixing it up. It's always something new every day.
Good. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's for us. That's great, because maybe you will keep doing it. Push that goal out further. Well, look, whether you appear as Elvira or Cassandra as another character, we'll follow you. We're going to be there. James is asking.
Oh my gosh, this question's so funny.
Okay.
You sing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I can say them. I use a lot of colorful words.
Yeah.
You kind of see how I talk.
They're in this book.
They are. They're all in there. I'm sure I shocked some of my relatives. I have some very religious relatives that, I'm sure when they read this book, they're going to be a little surprised about how I talk.
Oh, again, just your life, the way there's so many contradictions that it really does seem, and you do talk about how, I talked to Dee Wallace a couple of weeks ago, not only about her career, but she wrote this book, Recently Born, and she's been writing about this subject for a while, about about affirmations, about self-creation, and I, she calls them claims. I am a fan of that, the whole Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer, all that stuff.
I love
And it
that.
seems to me that, and you talk about, again, I feel like I'm giving spoilers here.
Mm.
Elvis Presley himself said to you that, something is not a coincidence. I mean, there's so many moments in your life where, come on, I mean, you were creating a job, a role for yourself that didn't exist, that you were uniquely suited for. Did that occur to you as it was maybe happening or coming together? That
No, not as it was happening. It occurred to me after I saw the whole thing happen. I kept saying to myself, even when I wrote the book, wow, look how that happened that got me there. Look how this happened that got me there. I really, truly believe nothing is a coincidence. And I'm very much in the world of like The Secret, that book about what you see, what you believe. If you concentrate on it, if you set goals, if you truly believe you can do it, it will happen. And that goes both good and bad. You know what I mean? It goes,
right.
You've got to watch out what you think, because things that you repeatedly think over and over do happen. But in my life, I mean, like meeting Elvis, I mean, come on, I'm a 14-year-old. I see him in Viva Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas. 3 years later, I'm in Las Vegas. I'm meeting Elvis. I'm in a show called Viva La Girls.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just a coincidence? I don't know. I one time was sitting around talking about Brad Pitt. He comes to my door. He buys my house. I was sitting in a bar one night with a girlfriend talking about Nicolas Cage. I get a tap on my shoulder. Can I buy you ladies a drink? It was Nicolas Cage. I mean, come on. Does that just happen? I don't know. I had a really weird recent experience. As I said, I love Rhonda Byrne, who wrote The Secret. And I was reading her new book, The Greatest Secret. I'll give her a little plug here. It's a fantastic book. And a friend of ours, we went up to Santa Barbara to see a couple of friends of ours. And they said, oh, do you mind if we bring another friend along? And I was like, oh, great. I really kind of just wanted to visit with them. And we reluctantly said, okay. We go there. We met them at the restaurant. The friend they brought along was Rhonda Byrne, the author of The Secret.
Of course.
Yeah, which I almost fell off my chair. I really did. And I got this fantastic, like hour and a half conversation with her about just what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that was just amazing. Of all the people in the world, there are more than 10 people in the world.
Yeah.
Who, why, and how did Rhonda Byrne show up at this restaurant having dinner with me? I don't get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, and the story is so amazing how that sort of, comes together. I did ask you, James asks about a biopic. Has it been greenlit yet? That's my question.
That is something I really, really want to do, really work on. I am working on another project right now that we're just starting, which I can't talk too much about, but I would also love to do a biopic. Everybody's been saying, who would play you?
Yeah, that's what James asks you.
James, I see it right there. I say Dolly Parton, but I don't know. We could be wrong.
I was trying to think what Elvira would say. Who has the brass breasts to play you?
Like Dolly. Yeah, definitely Dolly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and look, to your credit, I mean, you are such a unique personality, and it'd be hard. I can't imagine what contemporary actor James could play Elvira, except Cassandra. And by the way, I mean, you playing her on the Goldbergs recently, or you did that stuff for Shudder. You couldn't. I was watching a lot of footage of you getting ready for this. You wouldn't necessarily know, except for the quality of the video, that you were, a decade older or younger. It's just
thank you.
Everything. It's really amazing.
Good lighting. Yeah.
Magic lighting. No. Let's see. John Henderson writes, Elvira was clearly the best character presenter of the 80s and all time. Yes, John, we agree. Cassandra, who would you put in second place? Oh, he's trying to start some trouble here. Joe Bob Briggs, Svengoolie, someone else. Did you ever see them as competitors?
No, I love Joe Bob Briggs and Svengoolie. I adore both of them. I was so excited to be on Shuddered because they're on there, with their own shows. And I never saw them as competitors. We're all in the same school, all of us, we're like the last of the horror hosts. I hope not the last, but no, definitely not competitors. And let's see, was clearly the presenter all the time. Second place after me, I wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to say because it'd be like I like
Trying to-
somebody better than the others.
Right.
So I'm just going to keep quiet on that one.
It is interesting, like, so those folks are, again, like you said, similar presenters in that regard. And there's a long history, particularly in LA, of folks that, did horror presenting before you. But it does seem like in the 1980s, there was like this nexus. And maybe this is, again, going back to how you manifested your life.
Yeah.
But this, in the 1980s in particular, we had this, renewed fervor for everything 1950s. The horror genre had sort of been rebooted in a way, in the 1980s films. So there's a new love of that. MTV, which provided these opportunities to have these little, interstitials or whatever you'd call them.
My dog is humping. I'm sorry. There he is.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
Everybody
I love that.
came up and started humping my leg. Oh,
What is your dog's name?
his name is Vinny. He's named after Vincent Price.
Oh, of course. Oh, Vinny. Hey, Vinny.
Of course. Sorry to interrupt your question.
Yeah, no.
I couldn't sit here with him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. It was a question. I guess to get your thoughts about the 1980s as a decade that, I don't know, seemed to provide the great sort of, the chemistry necessary for Elvira to sort of explode the way she did.
Yeah, it did. It kind of all came together, in a really great way. I need to stay off there and stay off my leg. I think that's happening again, though. I think it's just another time period. I don't know if it was just unique to the 80s. I think nostalgia is bigger than ever. And I think one of the reasons Elvira is so kind of happening right now and popular is that people are, especially with the pandemic and everything that's going on, they're thinking back to when they were kids and they're really yearning for that, that moment when they sat there with their dad or their mom or their grandma or their grandpa or whoever and watched Elvira on TV. And it's very comforting, now. So, that's kind of a different vein than you were going in about the 80s. But yeah, the 80s did, I think it was the last time before things were happening before the advent of the internet. And I think that really changed things. Don't you?
Oh my gosh.
It came along, and the stuff that happened in the 80s couldn't happen now. A lot of I couldn't be on a little local TV show hosting horror movies. Nobody would be watching it. Yeah, it'd have to be on the internet or it wouldn't be happening, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And how would you, there's so much noise now, unfortunately.
So much going on. I was on TV when people had just like a few TV choices to watch, not like 90 million. So yeah, I think that era is kind of has gone by. And I don't know about horror hosts hanging in there. Something that happened about horror hosts that's a bummer is if you don't have the films and you don't have the rights to them to show them, you cannot have a horror host. So you have to go to a very large company that has the money to get the rights to these films so that you can then host them. Back then, it was like literally the station I was at had these films laying around just rotting over there. And like, let's put them on late at night with a horror host that would give them a little new life, because people have seen them 1,000 times. So I don't think all that could come together again. Yeah. Not with the computer around.
Yeah, it's a different paradigm, certainly. Yeah. We've only got a few more minutes here with Cassandra, so I'm going to squeeze some more questions in. Let's see, someone who hasn't asked a question yet, if we can get someone else in here.
I like this one. What piece of art, music, book, movie was most influential? I'll tell you one thing. And it's funny, your last name is Rice, but Anne Rice just passed away. And I was so sad about that. The Interview with the Vampire was such a huge book for me. It really inspired me. Loved that book and was very sad to hear about her passing. That was a big one, but I'd say probably if you read my book, I think really dorky movies like Bye Bye Birdie with Anne Margaret and Viva Las Vegas with Elvis Presley and Anne Margaret, Sweet Charity, all these old musicals that I loved. They were very influential. And one movie, especially House on Haunted Hill, which I saw
Sure.
when I was in between second and third grade, really changed my life because it completely got me into horror. And so I think without maybe that happening, I wouldn't be where I was. I even think without most of those movies happening, I wouldn't be where I was. So movies have had such a huge influence on my life. I could have maybe chosen better movies when it comes somewhere else, right? But they made a big, big difference in my life. And I hear from people over and over again how Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, which many would consider ridiculous fluff, has made a difference in other people's lives.
Sure.
So it's funny, but they're just, I don't know. I'm looking at these questions coming in. Yeah, I don't know. Where was I going?
Yeah. Well, your favorite, influential art.
Anyway, oh God,
So
my brains are kind of fried today.
I know I didn't realize you're doing all these back to back.
Yeah,
We'll let you go in just a minute here.
no,
Let's see
I'm
if we have.
loving this.
Okay, good.
Nothing yet.
You talked about, we know you're a fan of classic horror films. Do you keep up on horror, interested in horror since? Other contemporary horror or horror?
I mean, I do in a way. I try to. It's so funny. My partner hates watching horror movies, so it's really hard to like sit down and watch a horror movie. I mean, because she doesn't like them. She gets scared of them. So
Yeah.
I'm always wanting to see them, and she doesn't really want to see them. But I do like horror movies that have a little humor in them, like Shaun of the Dead, or I just recently, I was a little late to the party. I saw what we do in the shadows.
Oh, I love that show. Yes.
I love that. Oh my God.
That's a
I
good
did
one.
the movie I saw, not the TV
Oh,
show. But
yes, both.
yeah, I'm,
Great.
like I said, a little late to the party there. Recently, I love The Witch. I love Get Out.
Oh, yes.
So I see a few of these things. I just saw the new Edgar Wright movie just about a week ago, One Night in Soho.
Right.
Very interesting movie. And so I do see some when I can twist her arm and make her watch them with me.
So it seems more like the more intellectual or clever type of horror films, not your, what do they call that? Torture porn, where so many.
I do not
films
like any of that. I don't like
yeah.
watching it. I don't like slasher,
Yeah.
movies. I do like my friend Rob Zombie's movies. I always go to those. I don't know if I could say like, but I think they're so damned over the top that I actually kind of think they're funny.
Yeah.
Way.
Yeah, there is interesting that, especially in the 1980s, which is this decade of greed, of decadence we think about. And for a lot of people who, didn't have money, weren't doing so hot. But it was certainly an era of excesses and gratuitous violence in horror films, but also gratuitous sex.
Yep.
And Elvira's this character who sort of, plays on our love of scary things and love of sex. What is that nexus? Do you have any thoughts about how those two can sort of coexist?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, horror and sex have always kind of been rolled up into one ball. If you look at a lot of the old horror movies that I hosted, it was always vampire lesbians having sex, and I don't know. It's funny how sex and horror go together. I don't quite get the connection, but it's there so much and so often. Vampire movies, I kind of do get the connection. I mean, I find vampires very, very dark and sexy, and you want to go to these vampire. They're like so hot, and
Yes.
I mean, come on, Brad Pitt playing a vampire.
Brad Pitt, right?
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know why the sex element and the horror just meld so well together.
It's just,
Wish somebody give me an answer to that.
You can ask the therapist that when you go to see your
Okay,
therapist.
yeah, I'm going in an hour from now.
Thank you. Good. I lost it. We had a question here, Kat. I don't know who asked it, but it was about the comics and wondering. Oh, here it is. Oh, this is also from Chase. Chase asked a question earlier. Were you a part of the comic series? So there's a number of Elvira comics. Did you have any role in writing or?
Yeah, I've had a role in all of them. Not so much writing, but the comic books are their own category. I'm a writer, but I don't write comic books. But I do get all the. I've done a Marvel comic book, a DC comic book, and then a Claypool comic book for many years. Now I'm with Dynamite, and they are putting out some fantastic comic books. Most recent one where Elvira is with Vincent Price.
Oh.
Solving all kinds of metaphysical capers, which I just love. And we're even talking about possibly doing a graphic novel of the book right now. But I have some really great writers and great artists that I've been working with. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah.
I hope people would like that.
And it could be
Penny. Yeah, and so yeah, I really love doing the comics, and I get to okay the dialogue and the art. I have a say in all of it. I get to make suggestions. I talk to David Avalone, who is the writer, very often. We go over stuff. Where is it going? Which direction is it going? So I got to oversee the whole thing, but they do all the heavy lifting.
Very good. We have one other question here. I know we should be wrapping up, so maybe we can finish on this one here. Randall asks, "What do you consider your greatest accomplishment?" Which says as Elvira, but I don't know what. Maybe as Cassandra, did Elvira accomplish anything? I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably my greatest accomplishment was coming up with the character of Elvira.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it wasn't something I really planned, sat down and said, "Oh, I'll do this and this." It kind of happened. So it was kind of a lucky accident. All the pieces just fell into place, and I had this character. And maybe my greatest accomplishment, actually, even better than coming up with Elvira, was keeping the rights to the character. That is a big, big deal. I don't know if you guys out there in Facebook land see all these millions of characters that there are. None of those characters own their rights. So when you see an action figure or a pinball machine or whatever it may be, somebody else is getting paid for that, not the character. And I think Pee Wee Herman and I are maybe we always say we're like members of the most exclusive club in the world. We're two people who have completely different characters, and we're able to hang on to all the rights. Yeah. So maybe that's my greatest accomplishment. And maybe writing this book might have been also another of my greatest accomplishments. It was, yes. We wrap it up right.
Well, yes, we're so, that's right. There's something about, if you have a certain number of point of contacts, you can convince someone to do something. All right. There was two at one time there. Yeah, seriously. But look,
my book.
I agree. This is among your greatest accomplishments. And seriously, folks, I do thoroughly suggest, if you have eyes, well, that sounds terrible. If you like reading anything, what's that? One eye? Yeah, one eye. Seriously, lovers of stories, lovers of love will like this storybook. Cassandra, we're so grateful that you created this character and you spent so much time, devoted to it, because you brought us so much joy and happiness, and some folks encouragement. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. If you hang on, I'll say a proper goodbye to you. Thanks, everybody. We will see you again real soon on another upcoming Facebook Live. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, if you liked this interview and you'd like to be a part of our next Facebook Live and chat with a 1980s celebrity, well, one, you could recommend one to us if you'd like. Please do that. We'll get a hold of them so you can chat with them. But if you'd like to be a part of the next one, be sure and follow us on Facebook at 1980s Now, and follow our content partner, The 80s Ruled. Both of us are on Facebook, and together we bring you these interviews as often as we can and give you a chance to talk with your favorite celebrities. Okay, hey, we'll talk to you next time on 1980s Now.